Say it out loud. I will say it with you. What if I'm making all of this up? What if none of it is real? What if I am sitting at a table, assembling meaning out of noise, the way a face appears in wallpaper, the way you hear your name in a crowd that was never said? There, it is on the table now, where it belongs. Here is the first thing I have to say to you, and I want you to hear that I mean it, without irony and without any softening. Good. That question is not a threat to this practice. It is a qualification for it. The book says it arrives around day 8. And here you are on day 8. That is not a coincidence, and it's not a trick. It is simply what happens to people who practice the spatial sight method honestly for a week. You have now recorded enough sessions to notice how little you are certain of, and you are intelligent enough to draw the obvious conclusion. The question is the product of exactly the qualities the spatial sight method requires. Hi, I'm Dr. Rivka Edery, and we've been journeying together. Today is our 8th day together, and I'm so happy that you're back. Most books in this field would now try to talk you out of all of this. They would tell you to trust the process, to quiet the analytical mind, to stop blocking your intuition with doubt. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to ask you to keep the question at the table permanently. And then I'm going to show you the machinery that turns it from something you are afraid of into something you can use. Before I answer the question, I have to do something that may surprise you. I have to agree with it, not partially, not as a rhetorical setup. Actually agree. What are you worried about? That the mind supplies meaning to noise? That it finds faces in wallpaper, patterns in static, signal in randomness, without effort, constantly, and without bothering to inform you it is doing so? You are correct. It does. This is not a fringe risk. It is not an occasional malfunction that afflicts careless people. It is the default behavior of human cognition, of the mind's parts. In you and in me and in every practitioner who has ever sat at a table. The mind, with its many parts, is a pattern completion engine, and it does not idle. Give it noise, and it will hand you a pattern, and it will hand it to you with the full felt sense of discovery, the same warmth, the same click of recognition, the same conviction that accompanies a true perception. It does not label its guesses. I told you about this on the very first day in the blueprint. Traditional reading trains the eye inward into the symbol and the memory, and that invites projection and confirmation bias. The mind eagerly supplies meaning to noise. That was not a throwaway line. That was the diagnosis this entire method was constructed to treat. So when you arrive on day 8 and say, I think I might be doing that, you haven't lost your nerve. You have correctly identified the central problem in the field. Any method that does not have an answer to your question is worthless, and it deserves the suspicion you are currently aiming at this one. Now, let me show you the answer. Here is the answer. And it is a single sentence from my book, Spatial Psy. I am going to read it, and then I am going to spend the rest of the session unpacking it. The question, am I making this up, stops being a fear you carry and becomes a measurement you take. That is the whole thing. That is the entire architecture of Spatial Psy compressed. Notice what it does not say. It does not say, don't worry, you are not making it up. It does not say, trust yourself. It does not offer you reassurance of any kind. And I want you to notice how completely absent reassurance is from that sentence. Because reassurance is exactly what you would want right now. And reassurance is worthless. Think about why. Suppose I simply told you, you're not making it up. Rivka has been doing this for years. Trust the method. What would you have? You would have my confidence instead of your doubt. You would have swapped one unverified belief for another. And the swap would have been made on the basis of my authority, of my experience. And the moment you had a bad session, the doubt would come straight back because nothing would have actually changed. Nothing would have been measured. The method, Spatial Psy, my method, Spatial Psy, does not answer your question. It makes your question answerable. That is a different and much stronger move. You do not need to settle this by thinking harder, or by believing more, or by finding a state of mind in which the doubt does not arise. You need an apparatus that can tell the difference between a true signal and an invention. And you need it to be able to tell you when the answer is invention. You have been building that apparatus for 7 days. You just did not know that you just didn't know what it was for. Every structure you've met in this method exists for one reason, and it is this reason. Let me show you the 3 of them, because you've been operating them all week without being told what they were. The map freeze. You draw the geometry, and then you lock it before a single card turns. Why? Because it makes retrofitting impossible. You cannot bend the arrangement to fit the outcome because at the moment you record the arrangement, the outcome doesn't exist yet. The freeze puts your perception on the record before your mind has anything to bias it with. It is a device for making you unable to cheat, and it works whether or not you're trying to. The disconfirmation line. Page 3 of every daily record. You write down what would prove you're reading wrong before you know how it resolves. Think about what that does. A claim that cannot fail cannot be tested. And a claim that cannot be tested is not a claim at all. It is a mood. The disconfirmation line forces every reading you make to stick its neck out in advance in writing. And the scoring rule from the lexicon, a partial is never rounded up to a hit. I gave you that rule on day 5, and I told you then why you were getting it early. Because on the day you score, you will be invested and you will be generous. A generous scorer finds a lexicon in noise every single time. 3 structures, 1 purpose. Each of them is a place where the method takes the pen out of your hand at precisely the moment you would most like you would most want to be holding it. That is what has been protecting you all week, not your good intentions. Good intentions are exactly what the wallpaper face has too.